Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rhetoric with Shakia. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about Love Island USA Season 7, the finale. Okay, so let's just get into it. I was upset when Ace and Shelly were dumped from the villa. Now, I will be clear. I am absolutely a part of the Nicolandria Nation, okay? I am part of Nicolandria through and through, and yet I wanted Shelly and Ace to also be part of the final four. It just made sense. But that's not what we had. So who was part of the final four? We had, of course, Nick and Olandria. We have Amaya and Brian, Huda and Chris, and Iris and Pepe. That was y'all final four. Now, during this last episode of season 7, the couples, they go out on these dates, right? It's their last hurrah in the villa. Y'all, Huda and Chris went on a date and ended up being I'm sorry, it's not funny. Huda and Chris went on a date and decided to be friends, which is absolutely fine. However, let's not wait until you are part of the final four to do that. They both apparently were feeling some kind of way. We know Chris was feeling some kind of way. I wanted Chris to leave the villa, and he did not. He stayed, and they were part of the final four. How can you possibly be part of the final four? How can you possibly be part of the final four when y'all are not even a couple? Y'all are not in a connection anymore. People voted based off of who they wanted or who they liked as an individual. So people voted for Amaya because they really liked Amaya. People voted for Huda because they really liked Huda. That's not how this show works, guys. You're supposed to vote for who you believe has the strongest connection. And you mean to tell me, with all that we saw and all that we witnessed, you thought Huda and Chris had the strongest connection? Come now, stop it. But anyway, they did not reign up. Well, you know what? Before I move on from Huda and Chris, so they're at this date. By the way, it was beautiful. They were on the table on float. What is it called? On a floating deck, whatever it's called. All the candles, the lights. It was beautiful. And then they're having a conversation, and essentially they're breaking up and, well, ending this couple. And Chris is like, I feel like you've been knowing what you wanted to do. So just say it. Just say it. And so eventually Huda says, I think we should be friends. Then the singer comes out and she's singing. And it's not funny, but it is low-key comical because the timing of that was horrendous. Why would the show do that to them? That was that as the kids would say, diabolical. Okay. Here's what I didn't like. No, I'll start off with what I did like. I like that Chris stood on business. I like that he did not want to take things further with Huda because he realized this wasn't it. He had reservations even before the final date because he pulled Brian to the side, excuse me. Chris pulled Brian to the side and was like, yo, I'm not feeling this. I'm not really sure. And Brian was like, you sure you don't want to stick it out? Maybe go on the date. Let's see what happens. And he does that. My issue is, Chris, if you knew you didn't want to go past go, if you knew this wasn't it, you should have said that several episodes ago. Why wait and then try and put all of this on her to make a decision? Why didn't you make the decision? That's what I didn't like. But prior to the date, before the couples went to bed, so the night prior, before the couples went to bed, we see that Huda is tapping Chris on the back, just tapping him on the back. And she's like, excuse me, because she wanted some physical affection. She's like, I like being touched. I like when my man is all over me. Now, keep in mind, Chris had an issue because they have been physically intimate, but she didn't want to kiss him in front of the other Islanders. And so I think that really threw him off. And he's like, nah, this is not it. And he talked to her about it. And to me, they didn't really come to an understanding. He kept saying he didn't understand where she was coming from. And then she told him what her needs were, which was to be more affectionate with her in the morning, etc. But she didn't really acknowledge what it was that he wanted. So I thought that was interesting. Just to be clear, this is no no tea, no shade against these two. I don't know these people. I recognize we are watching a show and the show has so many edits. So what I'm discussing is only what we see in the show. That is it. And watching their interaction, you see two people who have, oh, I'm only making an assumption here, but very strong attachment issues. Okay. And if they are not addressed, I don't see how either one of them will have a healthy relationship, romantic partnership. Hell, I think some of their attachment issues also come up in some of their friendships, and we saw that specifically with Huda. And so I was just watching this cycle of dysfunction play out in their couple. So I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew that wasn't going to work. But y'all voted to have her part of the final four because that's what y'all wanted. Y'all voted to have her part of the final four. Y'all didn't care that she was in a couple that didn't make sense. Okay, so anyway, so Huda, back to the story. Huda is tapping him, and she's like, if you don't, and I'm going to paraphrase here, something to the effect of, turn around and talk to me. Can you speak to me, please? I'm going to count. I'm going to count. And she's like, 3, 2, 1. And she's counting down. And he says something to the effect of, yo, I'm trying to sleep. And she's like, this is what you're going to choose? Then I just want you to know the consequences for tomorrow. Because he wouldn't physically touch her. That's not okay. Anybody watching that and is siding with Huda, I need you to be very careful about that and assess your own attachment. Because that's going into the area of coercion. We don't want that. Under any circumstances do we want that. She needed to respect his physical boundaries the same way. If it were reversed, we would say, hey, Chris needed to back up off her. If she says, no, don't touch her, she doesn't want to be held, she doesn't want to touch you, we would say, hey, back up. We need to also hold Huda to that standard too. Respect people's physical space. But again, this couple, part of your final four. Okay, so moving on from them, the people who I really want to talk about, because if I'm being honest, like that's what I care about. Because Shelly and Nace weren't in the episode, so I only had one real couple that I cared about, which was Nicolandria. Baby, at the start of this episode, we see that kiss on that daybed. Nick was ready, and I think the only thing that stopped Nick was he realized his mama is indeed watching, and she did not like when he got all super physical before with a certain someone. And she's like, Nicholas in public. I thought that was so cute. But anyway, it was very steamy between those two. And I love that for them. I love that for them. Their date was beautiful. They got to read letters from fans, from people part of Nicolandria Nation. Then they got to read these beautiful letters from one from Nick's dad, the others from from Olandria's sisters. It was absolutely beautiful. And both of them kept saying, how did we not see this? How did we not see this? And so fast forward to the end when they're giving their speeches of love, their declaration of love. Oh my gosh. I love this for them. And here's the thing. Of course, I'm rooting for them to make it out of the villa and really thrive in their partnership with each other and then also continue to grow as individuals. But even if they don't last for a very long time, that's okay. I'm just so happy that they actually got to explore the connection. Listen, I am a Hallmark girly, okay? I grew up on Hallmark. I watch Christmas in July. I am here for it. So I love a good story. I love a good love story. And they had all the makings of a good love story. And for those who can't see that, I'm like, how? It was so great to witness. And again, I'm absolutely rooting for them outside of the villa, but just to watch what we were able to witness unfold. Because if you are a Hallmark girly, romance girly, right, rom-coms, all of that, lover girl, from day one, we knew it was Nick and Olandria. Which is why that Nicolandria ship shipped and sailed so hard, because we knew, you can see it, that these two people had a connection. So I loved it. I love their speeches to one another. I love that when Olandria ended her speech, she said that she does hope it's something everlasting. But when they were talking during their date, Olandria asked Nick if he had ever been in love, and he said twice. And she said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, but third time's a charm." Listen, listen. And Nick's speech, and I saw, because I am on Threads, which is where I was doing, even though I wasn't necessarily making videos on YouTube, I'm absolutely on Threads. I was live threading. I was having so much fun. I should have probably told you guys that, but I was having so much fun just being part of that Nicolandria community. It was upbeat. It was just magical, honestly, because it was a whole bunch of folk just manifesting good things for somebody else, and I love that. So anyway, I was over on Threads, and I saw some people saying they didn't like Nick's speech. They didn't like this particular line when Nick told Olandria, whether we are, so once they leave the villa, he says, whether we are friends, lovers, or partners, he wants her in his life. And people are like, what do you mean by that? Guys, he's saying regardless, he wants her in his life. Right, there's a connection there. He's also being mindful of what her boundaries are, and at a pace, and he's being mindful of, I think, the pace that she's going. So I think it's great that he wasn't trying to bombard her with all of these things. It was very fitting for their connection, especially considering what the conversation was during their last date. It makes sense. They were still on the same page. They both want to see where it goes. They both express that they have love for each other. He even made a joke about Marcel, and she was like, Mama's baby. It was so freaking cute. And they were dressed. Oh my God. Olandria in this gold and black gown, and he's standing there in black and gold. And it was, oh God, they look like royalty. And can I just be honest? I am never part of a fandom. I am never part of a hive. Like, none of that. None of that. This was the first time, and I loved it. I love the community of it, and it was just so fun. But anyway, so I'm saying that because I'm literally gushing over these two people, and it is hilarious considering I don't know them, and yet I'm rooting so hard for them. I'm also rooting for Ace and Shelly. I thought there were so many moments in that last episode that to not have Ace and Shelly there was just so ridiculous to me. And I think Olandria would have absolutely benefited from having her bestie there because they have such a bond. And I love their sistership. And so I thought it sucked, especially considering one of the couples in the final four they weren't even a couple. I, I, it just that final four outside of Nick and Olandria didn't make sense. Now Amaya and Brian, I get it, they won. Their connection is cute, and this is nothing against them. I think Amaya also, for Amaya and Huda, they would both benefit from really learning and leaning into emotional intelligence. So I struggled watching Amaya throughout the season, not because of her bubbliness or her zoomies or anything like that. That's fine. It was watching how Amaya and Huda specifically reacted to people. It was their reactions. They were very reactive and not really allowing other folk to speak, and they were listening to respond and not listening to actually digest what the other person was saying. And this is where emotional intelligence would honestly come in handy. And so this is no shade to them. I think Amaya at her core seems like a genuine person. And she won. She and Brian won. Brian actually pulled the envelope that had the 100K, and he decided to split it with Amaya. And so I'm happy for them. There's no hate over here. It's just some of the things that I saw throughout the season that didn't sit well with me. The story that I loved watching was Nicolandria. They have all of the makings of a great romance. So this is not to take away from the other couples. It's just I was dialed in, tuned in to Nick and Olandria because there was something there. And people keep saying how Amaya went through so much in the house, but so did Olandria. Olandria was with somebody, she was in a couple with somebody who did not like her. We knew as the audience because we heard Taylor's confessionals. We heard when Taylor was speaking one on one to Ace. We knew he wasn't really feeling her that way. I don't know what he was telling her and what he was telling the other islanders, but we knew that Taylor wasn't feeling Olandria. And there was so much stuff she just had to sit and take. And then Taylor pretended to be into her more when Jalen arrived, but then it still wasn't it for him. And as a viewer, you see how Nick is kind of checking her out. You see how Nick is standing up for her. We saw how Nick stood up for her when she was about to be dumped officially from the villa after the infamous Casa recoupling. And Nick, when they were deliberating on who to keep, Nick said, I just want you to know I'm voting for Alandria. I just want you to know I'm voting for Alandria. And then Ace was trying to get Coco to vote for Coco. Nick was like, I can't remember who he asked. Maybe TJ. I think TJ. I can't really remember right now. But he asked, did she pull you for a chat? And he said no. And then Nick was like, yeah, me either. I'm voting for Alandria. And then Clark tried to say something. He's like, respectfully, Clark, you've been here 3 days. Like Nick has been a great friend to her. And I think that is honestly a great way to start and to really embark on a phenomenal love story. Again, regardless of how it unfolds, I'm just glad that they took a chance on their connection. I'm glad Olandria put herself first and prioritized her needs. I know that that was difficult for her. You can tell and then they mentioned it, and Nick mentioned it in his speech about Olandria that she is loyal, and he said you're loyal to people even when they don't deserve it. Did y'all catch that? I was like, oh damn, because I believe it's true that she's so loyal that she has a hard time putting herself first. And she probably was somebody who had a lot of responsibilities, probably somebody who just had to get stuff done. So maybe she wasn't able to truly be this carefree chick, you know what I mean? To really go after certain things because things had to get done. And so I was happy that she put herself first and allowed herself to see what this could be. And they both kept saying, how did we miss this? And I'm sitting there like looking at Nick knowing God darn well he didn't miss it, but he said that in his speech. He was like, we keep asking ourselves, how do we miss the signs along the way? And maybe it was missing it that ended up bringing us together. It was actually really cute. He worded it much better than I just did in this moment. This brief recap of the last episode is all over the place. I acknowledge it. I think it's just because I'm really excited to see what these people do out of the villa. It's really ridiculous. I was so excited for this season to come to an end because I said, okay, I get my life back. I'm a whole adult, okay? I got a whole business. I gotta get my life back. And yet I'm watching these Nicolandria edits. I see that Nick is posting on Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat. So I'm leaning on other folk to keep posting because I'm like, okay, what are they up to? And I'm like, I gotta leave these babies alone. I have to leave them alone and let them go and live their lives. It was just so cute. It was just really cute. There's so much to be said about season 7, honestly, and all of the nonsense that came out. I'm going to call it nonsense that came out outside of the show that was just really disgusting to hear. It was disgusting to read. It was so uncalled for. But I don't like to focus on that, honestly. A lot of people have done a great job at writing different, and I wish I could remember the name of the authors, but writing different think pieces about some of the toxicity that emerged from this season. And so I'm gonna let them take care of it. I'm just gonna focus on the love story right now. And that's what we're talking about. So this was an extreme brief overview of the finale. Overall, Amaya Papaya won. Nicolandria came in second place. Huda and Chris, not a couple, they came in third. Iris and Pepe came in fourth. Iris and Pepe, obviously they look good together. Pepe is just a very handsome man. Oh my goodness. So when Ariana came to the ceremony, Pepe saw her, his eyes lit up. I'm like, there isn't a blonde that he will not go for. And he got up and he helped her. He helped her to get on the platform, which was really cute. Iris and Pepe, I don't know. I think maybe they do genuinely like each other. Do I think they should have been part of the final four? No. If I'm being honest, I don't think so. I don't. But anyway, Amaya and Brian, they won. And I also wish them well. I hope good things for all of them. You know, we don't hate over here. I hope good things for all of them. I just hope people really learn to leave, and this is for anybody who this fits, right? They learn to leave their toxic and dysfunctional patterns behind. So in order to do that, that means we have to implement healthier ways of being, healthier ways of communicating. We have to implement healthier attachment styles as well. But to do that, you got to be able to identify what's no longer working. And I hope that the Islanders are able to do that, especially those who really, really struggled this season with accountability and with understanding emotional intelligence. So, and if you want to hear more about that, you can let me know. I mean, I can talk more about some of the psychology and mental health stuff since that's my jam. Even though I just love talking about TV and film. That's also my jam. Side note, speaking of talk things that we could talk about, during family day, when Nick's mom was talking, when Nick and his mom were talking, and she's like, I can just see Olandria at the dinner table and we're talking shop and we're talking shop. I love that. And I think Nick and Olandria just really needed the reassurance. And they said this in the episode, and the last episode and the episode before that, reassurance from their families, and they got that. And once they got that reassurance, I think it was just go for them. So again, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I don't know if I'll watch season 8. I think in order for that to happen, the production company behind Love Island got to get it together. They got to get it together. They need to start holding Islanders accountable in real ways. And we need to do uh, give there's so many things that this season didn't have that it needed to have. I also watched season 6. I went back and I watched season 6, and I'm like, damn, there is really a difference between season 6 and season 7. And even the UK season that I watched, there's absolutely a difference. So production, get it together. Y'all did us dirty. Y'all literally fed us breadcrumbs for Nickel Landry, but also the way that you guys decided to edit Shelly and Olandria is really messed up. It it's messed up. The other Islanders who were dumped from the villa were coming out saying there's so much that we didn't see, and they tried to paint this story of Olandria and Shelly being the mean girls, being the bullies, and they were like, there's so much, especially that stand on your business challenge. I think it was Adrina who said that challenge was about 7 hours. Guys, there are a lot of critiques about this season. I hope that we can learn to find the humor, find the love and shows like this that's supposed to be lighthearted. And I hope that we are able to have discourse and we're able to disagree and still be respectful with each other. It's human decency. But anyway, maybe that's too much to ask for. I really hope not. So here's to season 7. Here's to cheers to my winners, Nicolandria. Cheers to Amaya and Brian and everybody who was part of the Nicolandria Nation. We did good. All right. I hope that you enjoyed this little chit chat. Let me know your thoughts about the final 4. And thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you come on back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.